It's your girl, Miss Ruby V, and this is the Boom Bap Hour Uncut. I am here with a very special guest on the Ruby V exclusive. We have Houston White, fashion designer, founder of, North Minneapolis owned Houston White Men's Room, the Houston White brand, doing real estate development. I mean, you're just doing all kind of stuff all over the place. And I mean, come on, you are 1996 North Minneapolis alumni. So only greatness could come out of that. You know what I'm saying? Give it up for Houston White.
Respect. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. It's a pleasure. It's been a long time, but it's always good to reconnect.
Yes, absolutely. And, this interview means a lot, not only because, I love my hometown. I miss Minneapolis. I got to get back so soon so that I can, visit with everyone and see everybody. But it just means a lot because, number one, you are dedicated to making sure that you are generating, wealth in our community. And I am dedicated to making sure that I, make sure that I give exposure to anyone who is doing that. So I'm just let me personally say thank you for what you're doing for Minneapolis.
Thank you for that.
Yes. So you had a huge accomplishment last year. So let's talk about that. The Black Excellence Collection was created exclusively for the reopening of the Minneapolis Lake Street Target. Now, for those that don't know, for our listeners who, are not familiar with what that actually, represents, really, that's the neighborhood that was ground zero in the long overdue racial justice awakening. That Target was really hit hard. I don't know if you guys were watching the news, but, that's where the windows were busted. All of that went down at that Target. So in that civil unrest. So really, it was very historical that it reopened because it was basically the reopening of an entire community. So how do you feel being part of that historic event?
It's just that, it's historic, right? I feel honored to have been tapped for that because, most people don't know it started because folks were going to get milk, right? So they could get the chemicals out of their eyes. That was originally why those youngsters were running in Target, to get milk.
Mm-hmm.
That led to some folks, getting unruly with them. And then it catapulted into a complete destruction of that store, right? Because we came in to just get milk and we ended up being mistreated. And so it was just like this kind of enough is enough moment. And I gotta say to the folks at Target, who decided that store was essential. It was essential to the community, who shops there, who needs that. And they made it a firm commitment that we're gonna reopen it. But the thing was, you can't just reopen a Target in the community like that and just do the same thing, right? Like that. Mm-hmm. And it feels inappropriate. And so they listened. What does the community want? How do we build a place that reflects the community? And so for me, to have a brand that started in the basement when I was 12 years old, to be on those shelves and to be a part of something that was historic, and hopefully that contributes to a healing. And in the future, it's colossal. It was huge moment.
Absolutely. Yes. So since then, you even had more great milestones, such as your collection premiering nationwide in JCPenney. I walked in JCPenney just looking to pick this shirt up, me and my husband, right? And I was like, hold on, wait a minute. That's his stuff right over there. I ain't even expect you to have a whole setup like that. So, he was like, well, let's go ahead and get some footage. So, it's like, man, that was so dope to me. I was so excited about that. And, how do you feel about your clothes being not only premiered nationwide in JCPenney, but you've also featured in Forbes as well. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. So we did JCPenney last year. And it was a test, right? Like, so the biggest moment last year was my mom being in Mississippi, going in to a store that wasn't necessarily welcoming to people who look like her years ago, and picking up a shirt in Jackson, Mississippi, and getting footage and saying, "This is my son's brand," right? And for it to go so well last year that JCPenney's like, "Look, this is huge. We need to do it bigger." And so we negotiated how this year would be, and it was like, we're going to have to be in partnership, front of store, right? This is going to have to be prominent, and we're going to have to show what it's like to have allies, which is to be the change piece. And let's combine that with Black excellence and tell a broader story about why I created this, what this means. And to get the sales figures, it's humbling, right? Like, people responding. I've gotten so many personal texts, even from folks I didn't even know. Like, there was one cat, he was a white dude married to a Black woman, and they have biracial children. And he's like, "Man, this is the first time I have a brand that can bring my family together in this unique way." Sent me a picture, and I was like, that was epic. You know, and then the Forbes piece was like, you remember being in the halls of North. I remember, you know, us dreaming about all kinds of stuff. We used to read the Source magazine incessantly, saying like, "Oh, one day I want to be the unsigned hype," or, you know, like all those things. We used to watch the videos and watch the Land Cruisers, always saying we're gonna get there, the lifestyles of the rich and famous, all that, you know, the Rob Report. And so Forbes was like this moment where it was like, all right, all the grind, all the work, all the hustle, all the ambition, recognized by the tippy top of the Tay. And so that was like, and for something that had purpose, right? It wasn't just like another dude balling. We don't need another boss Black man in the world. But when you're doing things with intention and they get recognized like that, that's pretty special.
Definitely. And you know what? It's so funny because I remember some of those conversations. A lot of them conversations happened in that art class.
Wow.
I'm serious. You know, I mean, a lot of those conversations happen right there. And I just remember that. And, you know, just reminiscing about that time period and like really just everyone was in a place where we just wanted to see what we were going to be. So, you know, that was pretty dope that, you know, took that and, you know, you were able to catapult to another stratosphere. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what's up. It's the American dream, you know, honestly. So.
Yes, most definitely. Now, so tell us all about what the Black Excellence brand actually represents so people really, you know, get the whole mission.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's a collective, just kind of a collective affirmation. Black is excellent, period. Those two words belong together in my mind, right? We're talking about a people who, and when I talk about Black, I'm talking about the descendants of enslaved people, Black. But of course, it's welcoming to all our brothers and sisters. But there's a very specific experience, that traumatic experience that my grandmother's mother's mother experienced. And I'm the descendant of that. And for the dignity to be maintained, for the result of our community, which was raped and pillaged and destroyed, and right to be standing here, that is some godly magic that exists within the DNA of us that unfortunately a lot of us don't understand, celebrate, recognize. And so really for me it was just a baseline, like, we are Black, we are excellent, let's celebrate that. And then to move beyond that to say, well, with this platform of Black excellence, let's control our narrative, let's control our neighborhood, and let's build enterprises that can sustain us and build generational wealth. So it's just really like reimagining Black futures by paying homage to the Black past and understanding at a baseline, we don't need to be fixed, we Gucci already. We just got to accept that mentally and then create a broader, better, more intentional future.
Absolutely. And tell us about your story. You shared your personal story of having a gateway from, trying some stuff. I mean, I know a lot of people as teenagers, they try like maybe the illicit way of getting, money to the legitimate way of getting money. And then you opened up, you started doing barbering and the HWMR men's room. So, the thing that I love is that you say you built it to be a bridge between socioeconomic backgrounds. Everybody is going to that barber chair, and that you're breaking and shattering generational curses. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, so I think of the barbershop as a black man's country club. That's what I call it. It's our place where we are prominent, where we control the space, the narrative, the photos, the conversation, everything. But it started for me at 13, 14 years old in the basement. I cut friends' hair, grew that business, became super busy. In between cutting hair, printing T-shirts, designing T-shirts that we would sell in the halls of North High. And so it was just this learning of our culture and your biggest critic, which at that time are your classmates, right? And if they rock with you, then you might got something that that was like the best feasibility study I could have, right? Like my cohorts are like stamping their approval by doing business with me, by purchasing, and we would sell out regularly. And so as I got older, I always just had this affinity for what the barbershop represented for me personally, which was freedom. I didn't have to go punch a clock. Yeah, I had to, my customers are my boss, but I felt this liberated feeling, like almost like hustling on the block. You give a service, you get a reward immediately. And so as I got older, I realized that my kind of superpower, magic space was the barbershop. But how do I do that as an adult? And how do I also push it back out into the world as something that could unite people and also be a catalyst, for a better Black future? So essentially, like Nib said, man, what I have is a space that's rooted in culture, that's authentically rooted in culture, that's integrated vertically, because that creates strength. And so that's kind of what I've tried to do with the connection to politics, to clothing, to various enterprises. And yeah, I mean, that's really what it's been about. It's like like LeBron hooping at 12 and then LeBron playing for the Lakers at 30. It's the same kind of thing, but as you mature, the connection to various parts of business, kind of naturally happen, but you always stay true to what got you there.
Absolutely. So do you feel like when, men come together at the men's room that, a lot of people talk about mental health these days, is it just a place for Black men to come and just let it all out?
Yeah, it's a safe space. That's an overused word, but it's a safe space in that, like, every Black man has a barbershop story or experience, remembers their first haircut. And I would venture to say that most have a pretty pleasant experience. It's like you go in a space and you see all Black men, right? Laughing, being free to talk, from all varying walks of life. And then as you get older, you don't have a whole lot of spaces specifically for men to just kind of undoubtedly be, just,
you don't.
It's one of the few places throughout American history that's kind of remained intact, and very specifically what it was meant for is still what it exists as, and it's still our place first. And so yeah, I think it's just, no matter who it is, whether it's Barack Obama or whether it's a little kid that maybe fell in school, they all feel like they can go to the shop and just talk.
Absolutely. So you are literally building a place in Minnesota that will be closing that wealth, income, and achievement gap for Black people. So tell us about Camdentown. Like, this is so dope to me.
The basis of all American life, all human life really is place, right? Where you